So, hello, welcome everyone to this DevOps chat. It's a bit different this time in that we're talking about enterprise DevOps. The Atos Scientific Community has just published a white paper on enterprise DevOps, and I'm really thrilled to have some of the co-authors joining me now to discuss some of the points from that paper. And it's an impressive example of technology, I think, because we've got 4 different people from 4 different countries all talking together via video link. So perhaps we can just begin with some introductions. So Simon Oberthor, would you like to just introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks. So my name is Simon Oberthor. I'm working as in the Software Innovation Campus Paderborn at the University of Paderborn. The SICP is a cooperation between leading-edge technology companies in Paderborn and the Paderborn University, and Atos is one of these leading-edge technology companies, which we're working long time now together, so sharing some office space here. And I'm a research and development manager of the area cloud and mobile, and that's obviously DevOps related.
Great stuff. Thank you, Simon. Dick van der Sar, would you like to give a short introduction as well?
Yes, of course. Dick van der Sar. I'm a thought leader on Agile and DevOps, and I'm working from out the Netherlands. What I do, I collect a lot of best practices of the current contracts that we have and translate them in the DevOps storylines. I do that for different customers, and I'm also involved in delivery and commercial teams within Atos. So that's in short what I do.
Great, fantastic, Dick. And Jean-Marc Cadoudal, would you also give us a short introduction, please?
Hello, everybody. So my name is Jean-Marc Cadoudal. I'm working for the Center of Excellence, the Cloud Center of Excellence from Atos. And I've joined the cloud organization 2 years ago. And beforehand, in fact, my main background is software architecture and enterprise architecture, being involved in large enterprise scale type of application development.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, guys. So I think what I thought we'd do, rather than talk through section by section the white paper, which there's really no point doing because everyone can download it, they can read it for themselves. It would be more interesting just to pick out some points that you found particularly interesting, or also some of the experiences we went through to put the paper together. Perhaps I'll start with you, Dick, in that I remember we kind of came up with the first draft and you read through it, and one of your first feedback points was this is all about development and you need more on the operations and the release side. And
yes,
and I think that happened because my background is development, and so naturally that was my focus, and that was what was in my head to begin with. So it expanded a lot. So do you want to talk a bit more about that?
Yeah. I think the originating thing about this discussion is about I started wondering about DevOps. I thought, okay, but what's Dev and what's Ops? Because I think you can interpret it in 2 ways. You can interpret it in a kind of life cycle, namely a project and a maintenance afterwards. But you can also look at it from an application versus an infrastructural side. So I thought, thinking, okay, let's define DevOps in a more structured way. And yeah, I come to know that yeah, it's really important to have all those 4 areas, because if you put them into 4 quadrants, to be covered in your DevOps approach, because I think in the end it's about collaboration. And if you want to collaborate, you have to know in which parties, in which ways you have to collaborate. So it's not only about speeding up application development, but it's also speeding up the complete life cycle. So also doing maintenance in a better way. But it's also aligning the application together with the infrastructure, and especially if you want to look at security and performance, yeah, then you need to collaborate in a better way. And I think that's a very interesting topic, because when I'm looking at a lot of material that's written around on the internet, you see an enormous focus on the speed and on the application development. But of course, there's more, and we already know, because cloud is of course very interesting. But there are more ingredients which are important. But also, if looking at automation, we must not limit ourselves only to automation application development. We must also automate service management, monitoring, all kinds of other things.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of benefits to gain over there.
I think that was probably one of the key things you revealed to me, was because for me, automation was not just about development, but all the way, the deployment pipeline. But as you say, it doesn't even finish once it's deployed. It's the operation, it's the monitoring, it's the how do you react to failures. It's all part of the DevOps kind of philosophy. What I'd also be really interested to hear from you, Simon, is it was wonderful to have you join us and collaborate on this paper together. I remember you were involved in some of the very early discussions we had. I'm interested what it was like for you coming from outside of Atos. So what did you notice as someone coming more from the outside of the company?
Yeah, interesting, especially is because I'm working here in academia related to industry, but it was nice to really look into the processes you are doing, the challenges industry is facing currently to bring the speed of the application of the business to the road. Because time to market is going very shortly nowadays, and the competition is going more and more, and you have to deliver fast, and this is not possible with the old methodology. So it was very interesting for us at academia to look into these kind of things, to not stay at the ivory tower, but also have the really input, especially in this transfer institute I'm working. And especially DevOps, I think, is very driven from industry. It's not invented in academia and then after some years applied, but it's coming from the other way around. And the tools are in place, some best practice are in place, but I think, and this is what we here in this paper really addressing, is what does it mean on a bigger scale? Because we handle the team size couldn't get too much for individual teams, so you have to work them together. So it's scaling things, and I think the service part is very describing it very well. And I personally realized when talking to you that it's not only a service on the architectural level, but also on the collaboration level. So seeing teams as services and providing different parts to the application on different kind of levels, and that was very interesting to learn, and seeing also what perhaps still have open questions for research.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that of course one of the specific topics for us in the paper was we were very much looking at enterprise DevOps, and at one point we had to say, well, what do we even mean by an enterprise? And in the end, for us, we decided upon this idea of it's really any company where it's big enough that you can't just have one team doing all the development and operations. You've got to start dividing people into teams. So that could be that you've got 20 developers. It could be you've got 500 or 5,000 developers, but it's got a broad definition of enterprise, but that's where we see some of the specific challenges coming with DevOps, because you can't, it's not just a room with 7 people in all getting on with it. So yeah, I think as well, what's that maybe links in, Jean-Marc, to one of the discussions we had, because in the world of the enterprise, there is a lot of talk about Bi-Modal IT particularly. Atos also wrote a paper on 2-speed IT, and I remember it was quite a challenge for us to think, well, how does that fit in with what we're writing about DevOps? So do you remember when we had that conversation?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, and basically, in fact, also there is a room for various approach around DevOps. I really believe that in fact, what is the main driver for adopting a full speed DevOps approach is basically the business driver, basically where company are in danger or attacked by a new entrant, or where competition is really very high. And I really feel that in that case, there is little choice but going full speed to DevOps and change the organization. By that, I mean every element, including what is customer facing, but also the backend system needs to be very agile in order to address and achieve the expected performance of the company. And there is very swayed, but I really believe that in some case, DevOps, full speed DevOps is probably the only choice that company have to survive competition.
And I remember it was through that discussion around Bi-Modal that we ended up coming up with that model for the urgency of DevOps, where we were saying exactly what you said, that part of it is about how competitive is the market, how fast changing is the market that you're in. And the other axis we've got is how much do you differentiate through software? Because realistically, if you're not using software to differentiate yourself, then DevOps is probably not that important to you, even if your market is changing rapidly. But equally, if the market is very slow moving, then even if you're using software to differentiate, then it probably isn't so urgent for you. Of course, I suppose I'd be interested in Dick and Simon's views here, that increasingly, I think we see that most companies are in fast-changing markets. There's digitalization, and most companies are becoming software companies. Dick, have you got something to add there?
Yeah, I think in the bi-modal discussion, I think it's very noticeable that you see that sometimes you would like to speed up, but not everybody is aware of how to do it. If you're looking, for instance, at very complex ERP solutions as a system of records, then it's quite difficult to imagine all the things that you have to arrange to work in a DevOps way. And I think in the end, it's not a discussion about whether they also have to change much faster than they did before, but it's more also where do you think that you can have the most benefits right now, and which is also feasible. So I think the bi-modal is especially focusing on, okay, where do we have to start? Where do we think we can have the best benefits right now? And in the end, I think the complete landscape, everything that's within it, should match the demand of the business.
Yeah.
So if the business says, okay, we have to speed up, then in the end, also the system of records have to speed up.
Yeah, and I think
while maintaining quality. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's in my view, it is a misunderstanding sometimes around bi-modal IT, that it is not. It's not actually suggesting that not everything should be mode 2. It's really an approach for identifying the areas where it will be easiest to change and where you will get the most value. So it's really an approach to organizational change, rather than saying you will always have this organization that is in 2 halves. And as Jean-Marc said, and I've seen this on several occasions, sometimes there is no point having a team that can deliver a mobile app quickly, because if as soon as they need a change to the back-end system, it's going to take a year, then you haven't really
got no speed. Yes.
Yeah. So it's a very good point you raised there. Simon, did you have anything to add to that point?
Yeah, I think it's a transition. I think at first Agile came along. The people realized that you have to change, adapt to the needs of the customers, and have to bring features in place very fast on these kind of things. Sorry. And on the other hand, I think also this process, all the pipelines we have, all the development pipelines will help to bring faster things on the road, and even change things. So we discussed a little bit around that, about the problems we had, or we have currently, that people build prototypes, show them to the customer, throw them away if they are okay, and then start from the scratch. I think a more agile approach, when starting the things and bringing all the things in line, will help. And different kind of things we currently have in pipelines will be going more and more automatic. So implementation and also testing will come along to help these kind of things to keep in line with the quality, for example. So when having good quality measures in place, automatic testing, all the phases you hear currently, you build it, you run it, will help along with these. And we look at the big companies who have greenfield application around in this area, like Netflix or for example, they have mechanisms in place to really build that. For example, to having services implemented by multiple people, and switching things off automatically with some monkeys. And these kind of things help to embrace failure, and even to make it easier for developer to put in the things in place. And I think this will rapidly change how applications are built. And when we look at, for example, also other web companies like Google or Amazon, they start to continuously improving things, and people getting used to this model from the web, from the mobile area, people getting new features along. They are not thinking about getting version 1, version 2. It's more a continuous process at every stage. And I think this will fasten things up and will change things, how things will be working out, which is a challenge because people don't like changes.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, it's a great point you make, because I think a lot of people think DevOps means going faster at the expense of reliability. But I can see you nodding, Dick. What are you thinking on that?
Yeah, I think that is one of the misconceptions of DevOps, that it's only about speed. And I always ask a question, okay, suppose that you're a business and you're completely relying on IT. on to provide a service to your customers, and you ask a question, okay, do you want to change today, or do you want your system to be available today? What's your choice? And I think in the end, the question is always quite simple. They want to have the system reliable and existing and providing the service to their customers. And then they also want to have to change. But it's a continuous balance between the speed and the quality. And I think in that way, we should also approach DevOps as really balancing between a lot of things. And one of those balances is between, okay, the speed and the quality. But it's also about business and IT balancing.
And I think as well, I mean, it's interesting you say that, because on one of the previous Twitter chats, I had a bit of a debate with someone about, can you apply DevOps everywhere? Now, that's a controversial thing to say.
That's nice. Yeah.
But I would argue DevOps is a very broad, a broad philosophy. And yes, we're aiming to deliver in smaller increments more frequently. We're aiming to automate, but actually we're not saying that you would have to release new functionalities to the client every day if that didn't make sense in the business. So I think I'm still of the mind you can apply it everywhere, because it is not it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. But again, I'll be interested because of your work with clients to hear what you think on that.
Yeah, I think it's quite related to the two-speed and the Bi-Modal IT part. I think in the end, I think it can be applied everywhere because it's very situational. You have to look in what balance do I need for this specific business domain, for this specific application, and that we see also at our customers, that you start with looking at what kind of business domains do we have. What is the business need per business domain, and then see, okay, what is needed in order to support their business needs. For instance, if you're an HR business domain, they don't need every day a change or every week a change. No, more once a year they need some changes, and sometimes within a couple of months. But it's completely different than the e-commerce part, where they need changes every day. So what we see is at the different customers that the real business focus is coming into it with the different business domains. And I think then you see that DevOps is applicable, but the way that you apply it is different for every business domain.
Has to be tailored. Right. I mean, we've spent quite a bit of time chatting about the white paper there. I've really, thanks so much for taking time to do that, but also it's been a bit of a thrill for me really to get 4 people, both from inside Atos, from France, Germany, and the Netherlands, together and have this conversation. So, as I say, it's been a real pleasure working with you on the white paper. It's been great to have this sort of face-to-face chat, and I'm also looking forward to the Twitter chat that we're going to have on the 17th. So, thanks again, guys, and I'm sure we'll be speaking again soon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.